most well-recognized building at CERN is certainly the globe of science and innovation. Considered CERN's headquarters, this incredible building is 40 meters in diameter and 27 meters high. In addition to the dome shape, this structure also has a hole in the top, which is covered by glass. When specially constructed, magnetic models of the CERN dome were placed in a vacuum chamber and high-voltage electricity was applied, some amazing plasma formations developed. Between the two CERN dome-shaped magnetic field emitters, you will notice a sun-like sphere of plasma with an outer shell surrounding it. Then you will notice a disk of plasma around the equator of this sphere, as well as axial jets being emitted from the nucleus of the reaction. In addition, this plasma structure spins at high speeds, and solar flare-like emissions are also seen coming from the core of the reaction. Experimental parameters such as spacing and orientation of the emitters were varied to see what effects these changes had on the plasma formations that developed. In addition, several different purging gases were used to see what effect this would have on the plasma. The gases tried thus far include ordinary air, argon, hydrogen, and helium. After several days of experimentation, the magnetic models of the CERN dome were removed from the vacuum chamber and photographed. Here you can see some of the very colorful glass deposits that were formed during these plasma experiments. A large number of experiments were conducted not only with these magnetic bowls, but also with magnetic bowls of other geometries.
Amid all the mysteries of the universe, the puzzle of how energy and matter interact in space, one thing has always seemed pretty clear, that light is the fastest thing around. Well, every so often, science gets a very big shock. In an underground laboratory in Italy, researchers can't quite believe what they're seeing. They've recorded tiny particles fired from another lab 400 miles away, arriving sooner than expected. Sooner, in fact, than a beam of light would have done. What's so extraordinary about these findings is that they seem to challenge the foundation of our understanding of how the universe works. It was Albert Einstein, a century ago, who worked out that nothing could, or should, go faster than light. Well, these measurements could be wrong, or something unexpected is distorting the results, or it really is possible for light to be overtaken. The results were announced by scientists at CERN, the huge lab at Geneva. They now want others to check their findings, to hunt for possible mistakes. But everyone's also wondering if something that seems totally impossible may actually be what's happening.
If this result is true, it would mean that we'd have to fundamentally rethink the way that the universe works. Because if you have things that can travel faster than the speed of light, it's not just space that's affected, it's time that's affected too. So things start to travel backwards in time, and all sorts of weird and wonderful effects can come out of that.
So did Einstein get it wrong? His famous theory explained the connection between energy and mass, the bedrock of modern physics. But it all depends on light travelling at the highest speed possible in the universe. That may still prove to be right, but today no one can be sure.
There's just something weird about CERN. CERN's Large Hadron Collider is the world's largest particle accelerator. In fact, it's the largest machine on Earth. Now, they tell us that they're seeking answers to some of the deepest mysteries of time and space. But some people believe that CERN is actually the key to the abyss, to the bottomless pit. And what they're going to do with CERN is allow the beast to rise from the abyss. They tell us that the idea is to recreate the circumstances right after the so-called Big Bang, or the beginning of the universe. They also claim to have already discovered the God particle. But what's really going on with CERN? Operatic dance performance filmed inside CERN. Symmetry tells the story of a CERN researcher who rediscovers love through the song and dance of the infinite cosmos. But what's really going on with CERN? So isn't it interesting that right around the time that CERN is about to activate the Large Hadron Collider once again, we find this, what seems to be strange ritual taking place actually inside of CERN. Let's take another look at this. Symmetry is an operatic sci-fi dance performance based on the work being performed at CERN. It follows Lucas, played by the film's choreographer Lucas Timilak, a CERN physicist hard at work using the LHC to search for the smallest particle in existence, when a ghostly woman played by soprano Claron McFadden appears. I want to show you a little bit of this footage. You can decide for yourself. Now this right here is the very beginning of the video, and I thought it was interesting because right here in the very beginning we find Saturn's ring. Check this out. In the search for the smallest particle. Boom. Right. And now check this out. Watch the way these people are dancing. It's also interesting to note that in between the different segments of this short video, they like to keep showing us Saturn's rings. Check this part out. I thought it was interesting as well. Now they're about to jump over to a new scene, and then watch the guy's cheek, and then there's that guy in the black right behind him. Now watch. Once again, just keep in mind that there is a very, very common belief that CERN, what they're doing, that these people are actually in league with the fallen angels, or with the satanic system itself, the devil himself, the beast system, or the Illuminati, you could even say. All this stuff is tied in together. This is really heavy stuff, and I find it amazing the things they're kind of showing us just in this short video, or this ritual that they performed at CERN. So just considering the possibility that that's actually what they're doing, that they are trying to open up the pit, that we are really in those times, as prophetic times, that it's time to unleash the beast, right? Then man, this imagery is interesting, isn't it? So look at this. Just watch. It's open, right? Here it comes. Anyway, it's interesting. It goes right here. Got the lady in white inside of the magic circle. You got the guy dressed in black walking outside of it. So once again, we have that symbol of the dark and the light. This time the light is the lady in white, and she's inside of a magic circle with the man in black walking around the edges. There was the ring again, right? Look, here it comes. Gates open. Boom. Here they come, right? Fallen angels, the devil himself. They're on the way. It makes you wonder. So something else I thought was really interesting is I went ahead and took a look at the names. Let's take a look at the name Lucas. And it just so happens that the name Lucas, right there in the middle you can see on the left, means light. We are dealing with Lucifer here, yes? It's bringing in Lucifer, bringing in the light. So then I look up the name for Claron. It just so happens it means bright. So we have these two characters, the bright light, performing this ritual at CERN. Where many people are concerned, they are literally trying to unlock the bottomless pit, that we are in the time where the beast rises, and this is essentially what they're trying to do. The part in the beginning of the video where they were all dancing around kind of weird, right? Well, it reminded me of I Pet Goat 2. If you haven't heard of I Pet Goat 2, it's a video. Please go check it out. It's all over the place. A lot of people have done breakdowns on the symbolic meaning behind it. And I say a lot. I mean a lot. And that's okay, because it's just that deep. This is some really deep occult stuff with I Pet Goat 2. There's a lot of different meanings going on there. And many of us do believe that it's truly a spiritual message, essentially laying out the times we're in. So another connection here is the statue of Kali stands out there in front of CERN. You can even see right there in CERN's logo the 666. We find the 3 6s in there, and this is certainly not by accident. Just another case of them literally putting it right in front of our face. And this is from I Pet Goat 2, where Kali turns out. But right around this time in the video, we also find this. back and show you another symbol that happened right there. Now watch real closely at the floor as this character's dancing around, and you're going to see a whole bunch of shark fins rise up. I'll see if I can catch it. And there they are. You see, those are shark fins surrounding him. He's bringing it up. Why is that important? Because I've covered the shark symbolism in other videos as well. We continually find these sharks turning up in these big public Illuminati rituals. And time again, I'm finding, for whatever reason, the sharks connected with a lot of established Illuminati symbolism. So it made me wonder. From the example in iPet Goat 2 with the shark fins, the connection with Kali, the connection with the LHC, the possibility that they're unlocking the pit, it only makes sense that the shark symbolizes the coming from the pit. But wait, there's more. For those fans of the old television series Lost, there's also a connection there with CERN and the LHC. There was a secret government group called Dharma in the television series Lost that was investigating all the mysteries around this island, this time-traveling island with all these mysteries and magic going on. It makes more sense now to me. I'll say that. So it's also interesting to note that not long ago, Rihanna made news by going outside the gates of the White House, and they made sure to tell us that it was outside the gates. Now the official story here is that she was trying to play some kind of a role of an actress on some TV show she likes. What really stood out here is that she posted this on her Instagram outside the gates, she even said, of the White House. So she's outside the gates of the White House, and she wrote, "Cyrus, let me in. Cyrus, let me in." The Cyrus is symbolic for Osiris. And this brings us back to that connection once again of the Illuminati beast system. Now that connection goes back to Osiris. And of course there's multiple connections between Osiris and this beast system, or the Illuminati in ancient Egypt, the Antichrist, the beast. I mean, essentially it's all one character, but it has so many names. And how many times have we seen that in the movies when somebody meets the devil and the devil says, "Well, I go by many names." It does. That also puts a new perspective on the whole idea of Miley Cyrus, right? Cyrus. She's really blown up over the last few years, and she's always got that tongue sticking out. And even more interesting, if you take a close look at Rihanna's dress and the pattern, well, what does that look like to you? It looks just like this. Cyrus, let me in, at the gate. The beast wants to be free. The beast wants the gate to be open. The beast wants out of the pit. Here they come.
Hey, this is Neeson, part of the Young Philosopher Society Underground Canada. That's ypscanada.com. I'm here today to talk about some more crazy stuff. What I want to talk about today ties in with CERN, quantum computers, the atom, and how it all comes from dead people, apparently. Now, I know you're probably thinking, old Neeson's gone crazy here, but I'm just looking in these people's own writings and their books and all this different stuff, and this is where I'm finding this information and just kind of connecting the dots. So, the first thing I want to talk about is this guy. His name was C.W. Leadbeater, or Charles Webster Leadbeater. He was a huge proponent of Helena Blavatsky and the occult in general. If you just scan down to the bottom here and look at all these different books, you can see that, you know, he talks about everything from dreams to the occultic in chemistry and a message from the unseen. He just has a whole bunch of stuff here. And the thing I want to talk about today is the messages from the unseen. And so what I'm doing in a lot of my writings, just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from a lot of this stuff, the whole thing on philosophy is that's what our society, that's what all this stuff revolves around, is philosophy. And it seems to me like when I go into about the year 1000 onward, you know, it's all philosophers who are developing mathematical science concepts, all this different stuff. You know, it's philosophy. We're living in a philosopher's world. Hence the reason that I created the Young Philosopher Society. It's supposed to be kind of an angle to go at these guys from their own level. Anyways, so I was looking into some of this guy's writings, you know, and it's absolutely mind-boggling what he's talking about here. Just to give you an example, in this book, Messages from the Unseen by this guy, you just scan down here for a little bit, and it's right around the 1%. And so he's talking about the astral projection, all this different stuff, and how it's being used to talk with dead people. And here it is. It says, I am not for a moment denying that sometimes useful information has been communicated from the unseen world. I have read books of quite a number of valuable facts being given to us by dead people to the living. Indeed, I happen to know personally one or two of such cases. For example, many years ago when General Drayson and I were fellow members of the London Lodge, he received from some dead astronomer an exceedingly valuable statement about what it is called for the second rotation of the Earth. And it just goes on about how truthful this is and all that. But even further, he goes on and talks about the creation of the atom. And he says another case is that the book written by a certain Mr. Babbitt in America called The Principles of Light and Color. He is rather fantastic in many ways, but we find a number of statements in which that the book are untrue. And I am told that he received them in a number of ways. I do not know what way exactly, through spiritualistic influence, inspiration, or teaching. For one thing, he was the first man, so far as we know, to depict a physical ultimate atom. We find drawings in his book in which very closely corresponds to that which our president and I made about 20 years later. And so there you go. Like, these guys are talking about getting information from literal dead people. Now, this is where I believe that the deception actually comes from. You know, it just changes over time of who these people in this astral dimension actually are. You know, they change from aliens, they go from angels, they go from dead people. You know, it's all just a complete deception. In the previous videos, I've talked about how Lucifer uses this rainbow, and that is the deception, you know, because the astral dimension, it consists of these 7 different layers or 7 different dimensions. And, you know, they're just, each layer is a different outlook on deception. You know, it's like you think you're seeing an angel, but it's ultimately just some sort of mechanism, and you're kind of a puppet in there, while the puppet master is Lucifer, just controlling all these different, they're just visions. That's all they are. They're false visions in which people are saying, sorry if I can't elaborate on that a little bit better, but that's pretty much just how I see it. And so the thing about this H.P. Leadbeater and why he's important is I've talked about him in this video I made, Satanic California. And in it I talk about how he elaborates on the 6th root race that Helena Blavatsky was talking about. And here it just says, according to C.W. Leadbeater, a colony will be established in Baja, California by the Theosophical Society under the guidance of masters of ancient wisdom in the 28th century for the intensive selective eugenic breeding of the 6th root race. And it goes on to talk about the Master Moria will be physically incarnate to order of create this Manu or progenitor of the new root race. By that time, the world will be empowered by nuclear power, and there will be a single world government led by a person who will be the reincarnation of Julius Caesar. Now, 2 interesting things about this. First of all, I just read an article here on InfoWars today. Take InfoWars however you want. I don't completely believe everything they say or everything they're about, but they are a good alternative media source because they don't just cover politics. They cover a lot of different stuff. Mostly it is just politics nowadays because that's all people want to hear. But anyways, I found this article on there, and it says that Russian analyst calls for nuclear attack on Yellowstone National Park. The reason I found this interesting was just right below in this little headline here. It says the reason that it would be why they want to attack this Yellowstone is Russian geopolitical analyst Konstantin Sikvov has called for Moscow to launch a nuclear attack on Yellowstone National Park and the San Andreas fault line. And so it's tying in this whole, the reason that, like, that's what I was saying, this root race here, they're talking about the San Andreas fault line breaking off and creating this island of California. And that's what it all ties in with why the chemtrails, I believe, this is just my opinion, but I believe they're kind of driving people out of California right now because they're depopulating the area in order for it to, I don't know, break off, and then they'll reestablish it with this completely satanic colony. You know, that's what it kind of looks like to me, but, you know, interpretation's up to the listener. Another interesting thing about what C.W. Leadbeater said about this society being created in California is he talks about the reincarnation of Julius Caesar. Now, I was actually startled to come across some information in which it said that the very first prototype of CERN was actually, its name was Caesar. Now, I don't know what's going on with these with CERN or what the whole intent or the outcome is going to be. You know, I don't know if it's actually going to open the gates of hell or if it's going to create a ton of energy, and, you know, which ultimately will be kind of inhabited by a person or a number of people. You know, they'll take in this energy and it'll kind of embody them. That's what seems to happen in a lot of satanic rituals. By the looks of it, it's like when people do these pentagrams inside of a circle, whatever, it creates energy, and the energy is taken in by the person that's conducting these rituals. So, and it's not just energy, it's an actual entity which is kind of created through doing these rituals, which ultimately possesses the person doing the ritual. And so I don't know if maybe like this first prototype of CERN, they did one of these, they got it going and everything, and then there's this energy created, and ultimately the energy, it summoned a demon, and then the demon inhabited somebody's body, which is really, created, which could have been the reincarnation of Caesar kind of coming back and inhabiting somebody's body. This is the whole kind of like the Moonchild concept, only you're not doing a ritual and taking just implanting a spirit into some random woman's body. You're actually creating the energy and, like I say, inhabiting the spirit yourself. Pretty complex. I hope you understand it there. Like I say, I'm not the best talker out there. Now, next, I just want to talk about the concept, how this kind of ties in with the whole concept of the string theory. So like I said, the whole thing with natural evolution, Charles Darwin's natural evolution and his cousin Charles Dalton, this is all meant to it's a dehumanization at its basics in order to alter the human species. That's my whole take on it anyways. Like I say, this is totally up to interpretation out there, but that's what it seems like to me. There's no proof that we've evolved or any of this type of stuff. It's just really to discredit the human race and make us less special. But the reason I want to I just kind of talk about that is because when we look at the whole string theory concept, I believe that's what it is all about. I'm no expert on this stuff or anything, but pretty much what it means is that there are 2 points, A and B, and both exist at the same time. And so there's, input equals output kind of thing. And it all ties in with this linear progression of evolution. I believe, that's how I believe it ties anyways. I don't know if that necessarily makes sense anyways. I just want to highlight a quick little spot here. The earliest version of string theory, bosonic string theory, incorporated only the class of particles known as bosons. It was then developed into superstring theory, which posits that a connection, a supersymmetry, exists between bosons and a class of particles called fermions. String theory requires the existence of extra spatial dimensions for mathematical consistency. In realistic physical models constructed from string theory, extra dimensions are typically compactified to extremely small scales. Now, this is just, again, interesting because, this is what the whole thing about CERN is. It's all about creating the God particle or bosons or whatever you want to call them. And, they're talking about going into extra spatial dimensions and solving mathematical concepts. This is kind of how I first became interested in the whole idea of quantum computers. It didn't make sense to me why these computers were going into different dimensions to solve problems. But when you go back and you look at the works of the C.W. Leadbeater, he talks about when you go into this astral dimension and you bring back information from one of these dead people or demons or whatever you want to call them, they don't paint a really good picture. It's just an isolated piece of information. And so what I believe that they're doing with the whole CERN and quantum computers, all this different stuff, is they're creating more consistent, they're painting a better picture and connecting the dots better of what's happening in the astral world. Like, they're taking this crazy information, which is coming from this other dimension, and, it's all isolated information. But as they create these machines and they're bringing this stuff back to Earth and doing all this interaction with it, like I say, they're painting a better picture of what's going on in this astral world. And it's kind of combining the two realities of our world and their world together. It's some pretty complex stuff, and like I say, I'm not the best at elaborating on this, but that's what's happening is they're trying to connect the dots of these different dead species of these demons in this astral world. That's what they say anyways. I don't actually think that's what's happening. Like I say, I think this is just complete deception coming from the fallen angels, the Lucifer, whatever you want to call it. And that's the whole thing with CERN. And maybe it is gonna be a huge portal that ultimately punches a hole into a different dimension and allows these creatures to come into our world. That's the way it seems to go. When you just look at the continual use of the number 666, all these different iconography used. It's just really weird. And so I'm sorry if I was kind of rambling today or jumping or muttering and everything. It's kind of complex, and I'm trying to get this out there in a clear manner. But pretty much the basics of it all is just go look at this H.W. Leadbeater, and it says right in his own words, and like I say, he had a lot of really influential books, like this occult chemistry. These are some pretty heavy topics that these guys are talking about, and they're literally talking about going into a different dimension and talking with, well, in his words, it's dead people, but this changes from time to time, and it's just getting really ugly on planet Earth. And I think there's a real strong correlation between all the suffering and misery that we're witnessing and what these guys are doing behind the scenes with this kind of stuff. So thanks for tuning in. Till next time, peace out.
welcome to Freedom Fighter 2127. The LHC Large Hadron Collider discovers new pentaquark particle. Oh, this is interesting. Check out the shape. Pentagram. Scientists at the Large Hadron Collider have announced the discovery of a new particle called the pentaquark. It was first predicted to exist in the 1960s, but much like the Higgs particle before it, the pentaquark eluded science for decades until its detection at the LHC. The discovery, which amounts to a new form of matter, was made by the Hadron Collider's LHCb experiment. The findings have been submitted to the journal Physical Review Letters. In 1964, two physicists, Murray Gell-Mann and George Zweig, independently proposed the existence of the subatomic particles known as quarks. They theorized that key properties of the particles known as baryons and mesons, really, were best explained if they were in turn made up of constituent particles. Zweig coined the term ACEs for the three new hypothesized building blocks, but it was Gell-Mann's name, quark, that stuck. Let's take a look at this thing. That's a better picture of it. This is their official Twitter account, or official Twitter page, whatever. Almost looks like kind of like a blood cell, but if you see here, a little interesting, isn't it? Clearly, it looks as though they have discovered some sort of a seal. As you can see, it's pretty laid out. It's very well laid out, if you would. But if you look at it from a different angle, they have better pictures of it. Hang on, let's go back through here. There. Other pictures of it, I should say. An alternative layout for the pentaquark showing a meson particle, one quark and one antiquark, and baryon, three quarks, weakly bonded together. Oh, how interesting. It's a new discovery day, isn't it? Look at him. Uh-oh, he's got some cross eyes. LHCb spokesman Guy Wilkinson commented the pentaquark is not just any new particle, it represents a way to aggregate quarks, namely the fundamental constituents of ordinary protons and neutrons, in a pattern that has never been observed before in our over 50 years of experimental searches. Studying its properties may allow us to understand better how ordinary matter, the protons and neutrons from which we're all made, is constituted. The LHC powered up again in April following a 2-year shutdown to complete a program of repairs and upgrades.
What? More to go. Wow. What? More to go. What the fuck?
Famed science fiction author Whitley Strieber, best known for his books The Hunger and Communion, was out at the theater with his wife Anne and her friend Starfire Tor. Little did they know what would happen that night would rival anything found in Whitley's books.
Nothing seems impossible to me anymore. I haven't talked about it very much.
After dinner, Anne and her friend went into what they thought was an empty ladies' room.
Well, it's a very small room, about 10 by 12. There was nobody in that room except for Anne Strieber and myself.
So I was standing on these steps. No one went in it after the two of them went in it. And I was watching the entire time.
Anne was a little bit before me, and she left and said she would wait for me outside.
So I went outside, stood in front of the door, waiting for Starfire.
As I slightly rounded the corner, coming out of the stall, a woman just materialized.
Whoa!
She didn't seem to understand where she was. She seemed confused. and then she just left the room.
While I was standing there, a woman came out.
I go out the door to the ladies' room, and Ann Strieber rushes up to me, very, very excited. She says, "A lady came out, but she didn't go in. A lady came out, but she didn't go in."
This was pretty amazing because we knew no one was in there when we went in. So how could someone have come out who was never in there in the first place?
No one, absolutely no one, went in that bathroom.
Who was this mysterious woman? And how could she have appeared from nowhere? For the eyewitnesses, this is no ghost story. For them, the answer is much weirder.
Something altered the timelines. We were brought together like a bad edit of a film, and that's how we almost collided.
Yeah, it's pretty far out, but remarkably, time travel may indeed be possible. And proof could soon be found in a 17-mile tunnel deep underground at the border of France and Switzerland. This is the Large Hadron Collider, a 17-mile-long tunnel designed to smash atoms together in an attempt to recreate conditions that last existed just before the Big Bang, when the universe was less than a trillionth of a second old. Scientists at the LHC are trying to understand what happened in that critical moment to make our universe what it is. By solving this, they hope to shed light on some of the most fundamental unanswered questions in physics.
With the Large Hadron Collider, perhaps one day we'll be able to answer these cosmic questions. What happened before the Big Bang? Is it possible to go through a black hole? Can you bend time into a pretzel? We're now entering the cusp of human progress. 100 years ago, think how primitive we are. 100 years from now, think of how advanced computers, artificial intelligence will be. Right now, we're at the most interesting point in human history, the cusp, when we're going to rocket through the universe.
A complete understanding of how the entire universe is really constructed might enable future physicists to find a way to manipulate the fabric of space-time itself and travel into the past or future. But can we really manipulate time? To find out, we first need to investigate time itself. Isaac Newton imagined time as an arrow, always traveling straight forward in one direction. But then Albert Einstein came along and said that time is more like a river that can meander, flow at different speeds, and even eddy back upon itself.
Now we look at a river and we think of the spot on the river where we are is something like the present moment. And then upstream from us is the future. This is coming towards us. It's relentless. It's sort of inevitable. In a moment, what was up there is going to be here. And downstream from us, we can think of as the past. So these are events that have already happened. So there you have it. You've got the future, you've got the present moment, you've got the past.
Is it possible to go against the flow of time into the future, or move even further downstream into the past? To do this, a time traveler would need to bend the fabric of space, connecting two distant points to create a theoretical tunnel through space and time known as a wormhole.
There are two parallel universes. Perhaps it might be possible to build a gateway between these universes, a wormhole, a shortcut, like the looking glass of Alice. Think of Alice in Wonderland. She had a looking glass and she put her hand through it and her hand went to the other side of forever. That is a wormhole.
But could we manipulate the very fabric of time and space?
If we have something called negative matter or negative energy, it might be possible to build a gateway to another universe, a gateway to another point in space or time. Now, of course, in science fiction, we have the dilithium crystals of Star Trek. People talk about spice. People talk about other exotic chemicals that will open these gateways. Well, I'm a physicist. To us, it's negative matter or negative energy. Negative energy we can actually create in the laboratory. It's already been done, but only in microscopic quantities. negative matter we've never seen before. If we can find a negative matter meteorite in outer space, just perhaps, maybe we can harness it to open a gateway to another universe.
The only problem is the amount of energy required to punch a hole to the other side of the universe is impossible for us to achieve with our current technology.
The trick is to assemble enough positive and negative energy in order to rip open the fabric of space and time. That's really hard. We're talking about the energy of a black hole, the energy of a star, in order to bend time into a pretzel.
How do you exploit Einstein's theory of relativity to travel into the future? Well, it turns out it's not that hard to do. Now, it's hard from an engineering point of view. You just need a really fast spaceship, which we don't have. But if you had one, here's what you do. You just go on a long journey and come back home.
Remarkably, this is possible because time behaves differently when an object or person travels at high velocity. It's called time dilation.
If you move fast enough, your clock will disagree from a clock that's been left at home. A similar thing can happen if you spend a lot of time in a strong gravitational field, like near a black hole, for example.
This amazing feat has actually already been accomplished. Russian cosmonaut Sergei Krikalev has spent more time in space than any other human being. From 1988 to 2005, Krikalev spent 803 days orbiting the Earth at high speed. At times, Krikalev was traveling at 17,000 miles per hour. Nowhere near the speed of light, but fast enough to travel forward in time.
It's only about 1/50th of a second, so it's almost too small to even notice. But he has aged just a little bit less than, let's say, if he had had a twin brother who had stayed on the ground. He's just a little bit younger than his brother would have been.
Using this theory, it may be possible to travel thousands of years into the future.
Imagine traveling all the way around the circumference of the Milky Way galaxy, our galaxy. Now, it's very big. It's about 150,000 light years around. So it's going to take a long time. You start accelerating at a rate of 1g, which is the normal force of gravity that you feel just sitting here. So you have this very mild acceleration, but you keep it up long enough, you're eventually going very fast. When you get halfway around, you start decelerating, and after many, many more years, you end up back on Earth where you started from. Here's the thing. To someone who has stayed at home and just watched you go and is waiting for your return, they have a long wait because it's going to take 150,000 years before you come back. But for you, from your point of view, on board this spaceship, only 23 years will have passed.
So, although it seems impossible, time travel is, theoretically at least, real. And the Large Hadron Collider could yet witness science fiction become functioning science fact.
In some theories where there's extra dimensions of space, in addition to the three that we see, little compact, tiny dimensions, extra dimensions of space, there's a speculative idea that they may be able to make a mini black hole in the Large Hadron Collider.
So is it possible the mystery figure that appeared that night in Los Angeles was really a time traveler? Perhaps even from a future where science had finally answered the secrets of the universe and were now able to manipulate time? Could be.
We physicists believe that if time travel is possible, all the paradoxes can be resolved if a parallel reality opens up and there are no contradictions. You simply change the past of another universe. This also means that perhaps in the future, our descendants may have the energy and the ability to create a time machine. So one day, if somebody knocks on your door and claims to be your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter, don't slam the door.
August 11th, 2015. We're going to go to the CERN site and look at the current conditions there. Remember they had blown the circuitry that controls one of the large magnets in the Atlas section of the Large Hadron Collider. They momentarily they got it up this morning. It went straight back down without achieving much power. Later in the day, they had the circuitry replaced, and it was up and running hot. We'll take a look at it before this video is over and see exactly where it's at. We'll go there live. But if you think about the events that have happened on this planet in the past and the ones that are about to happen, future events, many have been prophesied and warned about. Now, not much out of Geneva is talked about, except from one man, and that was Nostradamus. And he has proven that he talked about World War II and Hitler, things like that. So it may be something to kind of pay attention to. I'm not saying all prophecies are from God, but you never know. But he's been right about a lot of things, and this one's interesting. So let's take a look at it. It says, Quatrain 44. Into English, it says, leave Geneva, every last one of you. That's where CERN is. Saturn from gold to iron will be changed. The opposing ray pause will exterminate all. Before it has started, the sky will show signs. And notice in the French version in the second paragraph there that ray pause, that's the word, and it was in all capital letters, written by the hand of Nostradamus. It was an important word. Nobody's really sure what it's talked about. Some are talking about positron rays, or not. No one's for sure. But if you remember in the video last night, it said that they were going to go into, in November, into changing from these lead ions and these particle collisions to the gold. Remember that part? We'll take a look at it. We'll look at the calendar again. But again, leave Geneva. Every last one of you. Saturn from gold to iron will be changed. The opposing ray pause will exterminate all. Before it has started, the sky will show signs. Now, if you go on down through this, it doesn't appear to be a worldwide event. It appears to be local to that area as far as the first impacts of this event. Now let's look at Quatrain 81. It says, tears, cries, and laments, howls, terror, heart inhuman, cruel, black, and chilly. Lake of Geneva, the Isle of Gins mainly affected. Blood to pour out, for fame, mercy to none. Now these that's 3 different locations that he's talking about there. Lake of Geneva, the Isles, and of Gins. And I went to a map, and I'll show you that. I marked them off. We'll get an idea of exactly the locations that he gave. If you put a circle in that section, you'll see it's probably a 200-kilometer area. Again, tears, cries, laments, howls, terror, hearts inhuman. What does that make you think of? Satan is not human. The demons are not human. Cruel, black, and chilly. Again, the locations mainly affected, blood to pour out, mercy to none. Before we go to the map, let's go back to this first section at 44. 4 lines, each one are important. It says, leave Geneva, everybody. Saturn from gold to iron will be changed. We're going to look at that on the map. The opposing ray pause will exterminate all, whatever it is. We know what is in Geneva. Before it starts, the sky will show signs. Now, does that mean right before it goes to full power and all hell breaks loose that we're going to start seeing some type of events in the sky? We've seen it affect the magnetopause of our planet. And it will not be up until full power, I don't think, until they start running the gold ion collisions. There's one other quatrain, and it's number 10, that I want to look at because it caught my eye. It says, the serpent is put into the vault of iron, where 7 children of the king are held. The ancestors and forebears will come forth from the dead, lamenting to see thus dead the fruit of their line. There's a lot said there. You're talking about a serpent. Now, they're talking about a vault of iron. They don't say circle. They don't say which king, but the ancestors and forebears coming forth from the dead definitely point to something very strange happening. We talked about this gate opening. And the lamenting to see thus dead the fruit of their line. Will it open the gate? But what did Nostradamus say? Get out of Geneva, leave everyone, because during the process, will the fruit of their line that's still there be destroyed in this event? But will it open the gate? Think about this. Let's take a look at the map. I went and marked the 3 locations that were mentioned in the quatrain about leaving in the areas that are affected, guys. Let's check it out. Now, Geneva, Lake Le Mans is what he's talking about there. That area, and CERN is exactly where I've got the bottom pointer and the red. Now, the other locations, and I'll pull this up, check it out, pulls you right into the CERN building. We marked it there. Now, he doesn't say that building, that's 17 miles wide. He says from this lake, but it's a wide area. I drew the line straight up to both places that he mentioned. So if you're looking at probably 175 to 200 kilometers in that area. I'm not sure, guys. I didn't draw it out on the map, but it's a wide area. But there's the isle that he's talking about right there. And here is Gens if you come down this line. So you've got a pretty wide area that he's talking about. It will be felt. Now, of course, the population was much less at that point, but he was looking into the future. So if something bad happened, he's talking about this wide of an area being affected. Will it be out in a circle? Will it be through that area because of the geographic, the mountains, things like that, guys, the location where it's at, the fault lines, who knows? But those are the areas that he mentioned. And if you draw a circle from there, that is a wide area. Look at the amount of people that would be involved in that. Now, one of the things that CERN has done has taken technology and information that's been developed from the other colliders around the world, and now in this new run that we're seeing, all of that's coming together there. But this is an article that goes back a couple of years. It says Golden Hints About the Early Universe, and this is coming out of Brookhaven. That's here in the United States, guys. It says earlier low energy, or HIC experiments using gold. AU plus AU found electric polarization, a small separation of positive and negative charges in the overlap region where the ions collided. This effect was potentially worrying since quantum chromodynamics require chiral or mirror symmetry. There's that word symmetry again. There should be no inherent left or right-handedness resulting from strong force interactions. It should stay the same. However, this quantum chromodynamics, which is the QCD, does allow violations of the symmetry at higher temperatures. Is that what they're trying to do, violate the symmetry? As long as they average out over all the collisions. These violations may have played a role in the early universe, when more matter was produced than antimatter, according to the BNL's Vigdor. Now they're talking about the Big Bang again here, but it says AU plus AU gold. Collisions result in strong magnetic fields. They're about to change. Now, they already have a very strong magnetic field that's 100,000 times more powerful than our planet. Like I said, now they're transferring all this information to Geneva. This article, More Exotic Quark Matter, talks about with much higher energies available at the LHC, researchers are using it to examine a high-temperature region. Now, this article was before they cranked back up this year, guys. So think about this. It says, to give a sense of how preliminary they are, CERN announced yesterday that the LHC has achieved the highest human-made temperature yet, but hasn't been able to determine exactly what that temperature is. It's about 38% larger than the previous record from the RHIC, again back at Brookhaven, which was about 4 trillion degrees Celsius. Such high energy should help make clear the structure. Think about that. These high temperatures and this luminosity go hand in hand. That high temperature you're talking about star temperature, neutron star temperature. Very high. Now we're going live to CERN. It's 4:52 as I'm doing this now, Central Time this afternoon. But there's having a ramp down. It says protection dump, multiple system dump. You see that? Trip of the RB8 A78 again. Same one as last night. That's one of the circuits to control the magnets in Atlas, the giant machine. And those magnets in that circuit, if I'm reading the diagram right, they control the beam. In other words, they focus it so that they can match them and create the collisions. Again, a circuit shorted, but it increased the temperature here. Actually, this morning, guys, before that circuit shorted, I was watching this thing run at full power, and the temperature had already started to rise there. When you look at that scale at 1.8 to 2, to where they have to keep this thing, that temperature down to achieve almost the speed of light, it's minus 271 degrees Fahrenheit. It's pretty cold, so they're creating a tremendous amount of heat. You see what we're dealing with there? Maybe Nostradamus was right. Leave Geneva. And you can see what happened early in the morning right here in this bottom. They had tried to start up and it went back down. Later in the day, it came back up and they reached this peak here. That's right here in the top part. And you're running at full power. The beams actually look like they were breaking that normal peak line. You see that? We're a little hotter. And that's what happens. These guys do not care. It has gotten so evil that they're showing it to us in our face. They're trying to open that gate. And they don't care if they destroy everything and everyone around them to achieve that. Human life means nothing to these people. Although it's shut down now, you can see right here at about 1900 hours, again, UTC is 2 hours behind CERN time. Right there's a peak in the luminosity performance, and that's when it shut down. Something in that circuit is they're trying to override their bounds, guys, as they're trying to push this power past the point that they've agreed to, keeping it 6.5 TeV per beam up to 13 total. It's shorting out. They will go in and fix this. They're going to continue until they blow themselves up, open the gate, or whatever. But they're very determined to do one or the other. And they may be doing both at the same time. And here in the beam dump page, you can see to where they were slightly losing control in the left section of both beam 1 and beam 2, red and blue sections of this thing. And that's got exactly to do with the Atlas magnet that controls the focus of these beams. If they lose that control, then it's like a train jumping the tracks. They have to shut it down at that point, guys. But we're watching it. Again, I wanted to point at that particular Nostradamus prophecy out because it never really fit anything else until this point. We'll see. It's just interesting. It's a heads up. Be safe.
It has only 3 left.
September 1st, 2015. You're looking at images from the SDO. These are Earth-facing, starting back on the 30th. You've had filament eruptions on the bottom left corner, the top right, slightly on the back side, and this filament is starting to rise. Notice that, guys, in the last few images. we'll keep an eye on that. It would be more of facing. And we've got stereo A back from behind the sun, guys. We're starting to get some images. This is the image that you saw on the top right here. It's showing top left. That's because the stereo A satellite, again, is on the other side of the sun from the SDO, which is closer to our planet. Again, these are Earth-facing, going back to SOHO, LASCO C2 and C3 images. And this is that large explosion that was on the top there, large filament release. When you start seeing 2 or 3 in a row like that, usually it's meaning that CERN is powered back up, running high power. Now, they had scheduled to be down for a week, but you can see the cryogenics went way above the limit. That limit was just above at 1.9 on the scale. That means they lose control, they lose speed, everything. But notice the what it's saying, Monday through Friday, a technical stop. And that looks like the map from last week, I mean the calendar from last week, and I'll show you that before the video's over. Because you can see here the history of the data taking with stable beams for the last 24 hours, and they have been running. So what I'm thinking is they started back up, and because the cryos were out of control, they could not control that low temperature. They had to shut it back down, because you notice the date here. This is Monday, August the 31st. Now, the calendar, it's kind of confusing the way they wrote this, but right there, September the 1st, notice right above that is August 31st. We're supposed to be out of the green line to the left, which is technical stop number 2. We're supposed to be in a special physics run during that week 36, right under the September. Goes through October, November, around the 16th, starting an ion setup, and it's going to go from proton to gold ion collisions. We'll see how that works out for them. Right now, though, they're supposed to be in a special physics run and out of this technical stop, too. That should have been over and be back into what's called recommissioning with the beams. So we'll see in the next day or two how they come out of this into this, again, special physics run. Now, looking at the Dow Jones, guys, as I'm doing the video at 10 a.m. Central, Dow's down 351.87. They had to invoke Rule 48 again. All the way across the board, European markets are way down 2.7%, 3.27%. The same way in Asia. Everything is down. The Nikkei is down minus 724 or 3.84%. Oil was back in the rise, getting back up around $48, $49 a barrel. It has lost $3.14 back to 46.06. Silver's down, copper's down, gold is slightly up, but it has been falling. It is still, it cannot regain, it will not regain. It's going to continue to go to zero. Now, we're going to talk about all this on the Blog Talk Show coming up in a few minutes at 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon on the East Coast, and 9 a.m. on the West Coast, guys. Check it out. I'll put a link to the Blog Talk Show. We're going to talk about this. We need to pay attention to these stock markets. Major indicator of what this world is getting into. Heads up. Be safe.
Serious? Are you serious? Are you concerned about the CERN? Well, it has shut down. I repeat, the CERN has shut down. No beam. And there you see the date. It is already September the 1st, 2015 in Geneva, Switzerland. This could be a September to remember. Matter of fact, I received this information just moments ago. Michael Murphy, who keeps a close eye on this, on the CERN, getting this information to me. There you see the link status of the beam. The global beam permit, the setup beam, the beam presence, the movable device allowed in, the stable beam, all on false. Matter of fact, over here, if you read the statistics, it says comments as of August 31st, 2015, in Geneva, there was a technical stop. I repeat, a technical stop. Something went wrong. Now, actually, Michael Murphy told me he had been watching it all day. They had been running the CERN wide open, not all the way to 99.9% of the speed of light, but running at very high temperatures all day for hours. But now they have put it, it's at a stop. The CERN is down. The CERN is down. A stop, shut down, no beam. Shut down, no beam. September 1st, 2015. First day of the September to remember. And already we have riots going on in Ukraine in front of the parliament. 1 dead, 100 injured. We have already a third chemical plant explosion in the early morning hours of September 1st in China again, massive explosion, and the CERN has shut down. What have we learned from the CERN? Did it turn and has it burned? Well, we'll continue to keep an eye on what's going on in all time. I told you, this is a September to remember. And we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Everything that we've been looking to may not be what actually takes place. But we know one thing. Rosh Hashanah, Feast of Trumpets, the Day of Atonement, there's no question. The Feast of Tabernacles, the UN General Assembly, the Pope's visit to America, the Pope at the White House, the Pope addressing Congress, the Pope addressing the United Nations, the Hajj in Mecca. There's just so much. The Ukraine, Russia crisis. There's just the Iranian nuke deal. Will it be ratified? I mean, are you serious? Madonna and her desecration of the bride and the arrival of the fallen angel tour. Are you serious? It just keeps going on. The fourth blood moon, a super blood moon, visible not only from the East Coast, but from the streets of Jerusalem. Pray, folks, and give your life to Jesus Christ. What happened at the CERN?
Hey everybody, this is Spiro. We're looking at a screenshot from yesterday's Large Hadron Collider, otherwise known as CERN. Their live feed here, and you can see a shutdown, no beam, September 1st, 2015. A lot of people are freaking out and are very concerned about CERN, and I'm concerned about CERN. So I understand this. Now, this shutdown was planned. This is a planned shutdown. There is nothing right now at CERN that we're aware of that is wrong or melting down or any kind of crazy stuff like that. This was a planned shutdown. Okay, so this was yesterday's feed here. This is today's feed of CERN, still shut down, no beam, the 2nd of September, 2015, right now. Okay, now I'm going to take you over to the schedule for CERN, the Large Hadron Collider schedule for 2015. Now they have it all broken down and as to months, your days and your week. This number up here represents the last day of each week, right? So this is the 23rd, that means this would be the 24th, and so on. Okay, so let's scroll down here to September. Here we are, the 36th week of the year. This would make this August 31st. This would make this today. Now, this is where I'm at. This is today. I'm in the US. Now, the screenshots that I showed you before, one said the 1st and one said the 2nd because in Geneva, Switzerland, right now it's September 2nd. Okay, so here we are. It's green. September 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. All right. You go right here to the key, technical stop. So you can look here and you can see green, green, technical stop. Since it's planned out in advance, it's on the schedule as a planned stop. That means it was a planned stop. Nothing happened, nothing was overheating or melting down. And I really like the fact that people are keeping a close eye on this. I mean, this is stuff that we need to keep a close eye on. No doubt, CERN, there's a lot more going on there than what we're being told. I've reported on it in the past, and I'm going to continue to report on it in the future. This is probably the biggest thing that I can think of right now, is CERN, realistically, in my honest opinion. So, and we're going to be approaching some dates here. Now, this is the 10th of September, and I'm not exactly sure what this is, but I'm sure you guys are going to tell me in the comments. I hope you do, and I'm going to look into it myself. You guys in the comments, are on top of it as always. You always are putting things in there that I forget or I don't know or whatever. I mean, thank you so much, everybody out there. Well, until next time, this is Spiro, and I just want to give you this CERN update. Nothing is like melting down. It's okay right now. This was a planned shutdown. Peace.